Oh my goodness. Good morning. Hello, LinkedIn. And of course, heavy hearted. And right before this, my dearest, 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 dearest friend who you're about to meet was talking about, wow, what a timely topic this is. And so, there is just no words. And I'm glad we're talking about this. So please, I put it out there, first, let us know where you're tuning in from. Secondly, have you ever dealt with a narcissist? And so I don't think that it's necessarily a foreign topic. But before I get into the topic, I need to make this very important introduction. I don't know how many of you have known somebody for nearly 40 years, but I can tell you that the woman that you are about to meet has been my rock. She's been my rock and my roll. She has taken me from the person I used to be to the person that I am today. And aside from that amazing personal relationship and being besties as we've been, the really, really big deal about this is I've yet to meet somebody who is so passionate and dedicated about their craft. And Claudia, aside from all the letters that are behind her name and her qualifications, which you can all read about, this is somebody who has studied the topic of narcissism to the nth degree, and today is bringing you information that has yet to come out. It's scheduled for June. So what I want you to know is you got to meet her. And Claudia Paradise, thank you beyond for showing up, not just today, but in every facet of my life. And I love you more than words could ever say. So do us a solid. Please do us a solid and explain to us some of the nuances. I mean, we use this term narcissist. Oh, he's a narcissist. She's a narcissist. We use it in such a flippant manner. But what is the difference between someone who is selfish, self-centered, someone who's self-absorbed, someone who we just think is kind of arrogant, and a true narcissist?
And a true narcissist. Lauren, it would take me too long to give you all the kudos, but I love you to the moon and back, and I am so appreciative to be here today. And timely is right. What happened yesterday is devastating, and more of the same of what we're looking at here in terms of pathology. So let's start. Let me address your question. What is the difference between a bully, someone that's self-centered, or a true narcissist? And I'm going to reframe the question, because all narcissists are bullies, but not all bullies are narcissists. All narcissists are self-centered. Bullies are self-centered, but not necessarily. And the term bully really historically comes from children and are identifying that hierarchy of power and wielding that abuse. Bullies developmentally can grow out of being a bully. They may be modeling something that they see at home and not necessarily a pathological personality. However, adult pathology usually traces back to bullying behavior in childhood, conduct disorder in childhood, or all precursors that we see to narcissism in adulthood. So how narcissism is different, and how narcissism is different than this kind of term that we throw around, is that true narcissistic personality disorder, which is on the cluster B personality disorder spectrum, which we can talk about a little bit later, is a pervasive pattern of pathology. It's, if you would say that a healthy garden type neurotic like you or I can be narcissistic some of the time, we can peel that metaphor, that onion layer back, and be able to change our ways, learn from a mistake. A person with narcissistic personality disorder is like scrambled eggs. It's all mixed together and it can't be separated. And so when we talk about therapy for narcissistic personality disorder, they are fixed personality type, and very often they may be able to manage certain aspects of their self, but never to the point where interpersonally they become safe for the rest of us. So it's pervasive, whereas we're not 100% sure about where we are. A bully can grow, possibly.
So this is, like I said, a timely topic, and I'm like almost afraid to ask this question, because is this personality disorder, is this getting better or worse, whether it's in the workplace or just in terms of how we are interacting as a world, right?
Right. It's getting worse. Clearly, it's getting worse. The aspect that's getting better is the chance we have now, the chance we have always had to learn about it, to speak about it, to have a conversation, and start creating the psychoeducation of what to look for. We cannot protect ourselves from these people if we don't know what to look for. And most of their behavior, unless you get a grandiose, I call them chest thumpers or silverbacks, and I really don't want to insult a gorilla, but the grandiose narcissists that we see politically that are very overt in their manner and their tendencies, we're actually safer with them because we can spot them. It's the covert narcissists that actually appear to be wonderful people that are more other invested than self-invested behaviorally.
Okay, this is really where the rubber meets the road for me, because I mean, I'm just going to raise my hand and say, like, I've been duped. Yeah. Like, I've been duped, and I'm sure if you've been duped, put yourself in the chat so that we know that, first of all, like, I'm not alone. I have been duped. I have been fooled. And I thought that I knew what the signs were, probably because my expectation was that it had to look like the chest beater. And what you're sharing here is that there are not necessarily obvious signs. And this shows up also, and the reason why I'm bringing this topic to light is in your interview process. For example, how well do you know this person? How can you spot this person? You're just barely even meeting each other, even if it's for a few hours, right?
That's right.
That's not enough time to be able to qualify or detect, hey, this is like warning.
Right.
So what can we do? Help us to understand the people that are less obvious on the surface, and some of the things that we need to know.
Right. So you can't tell. That's why it's a diagnosis. Robert Hare, expert in psychopathology, calls these disorders the disorders of hiding. You cannot tell. They front like the rest of us. However, covert narcissists and grandiose at times can be too nice. healthy people don't need to seduce you, don't need to love bomb you. They don't want to. They're as cautious as we are. So when you spot somebody really trying to like you or know you or suck up to you too soon, too quickly, trust your instincts. The main thing that these people want to do, all their tactics are about spinning you out, getting you to abandon what you know. And when that happens, we are putty in their hands. I have also been duped. Not only have I been duped, but I grew up in a family that was chock full of this. So, had I had a predisposition to this kind of pathology, I'd be dead in the water. But I didn't, thank God. I became the wind beneath everybody's wings. And yet all this pathological behavior was modeled for me. So that kind of harkens back to what we're talking about. I could have been a bully, not because I was predisposed to it, but because that was the model of behavior that was shown to me from day one of my life, from every member of my family in a different way. So too nice. Go ahead.
So here's like the follow-up question to the question that I asked. Okay, so you've just met somebody and you're not going to be able to sort it out. You're not going to be able to find out. What if you're already in that situation? It could be a personal relationship. It could be certainly where, I mean, me, myself, I've been like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I'm working for this like crazy person.
Right.
Like, right. I still need this job. I still like my work.
That's right.
I still believe in the mission of the organization. But this person, oh my, like it is tough. What do I do with that?
Ultimately, the main response for when you identify you're with a pathological, I'm going to use the term pathological that encompasses all of the derivations of the cluster Bs for now. You're supposed to cut and run. You're supposed to go no contact. So we're starting from that point. That is the ideal because there is no negotiating these personalities. So if you are not being directly fucked with, mm-hmm. and I call it mind fuckery, I can say that on your show.
Yes, you can.
That's right. You keep your head down. You don't confront. There's a term that is used in these circles called gray rock, where we lose our own emotion. We kind of keep our heads down and we don't call attention to ourselves. We answer questions and we distance ourselves as much as possible. Now, a narcissist is going to then deem us a non-valuable supply source.
Okay, so now I'm like off limits, right? Goodbye, go find another supply source.
That's right. But you also may be discarded if you have no supply to offer. And while we need our paychecks, that kind of rejection is actually a gift and a blessing.
So this is kind of, I mean, I hate to be, bringing this to you and it's a downer, but I also want to say, like, better to know than not know. And so be informed. And to that end of being informed, right? Yeah. Now you have to obviously protect yourself and not call attention to yourself and protect obviously your mental illness. And what does that mean for you? For example, if you won't really care about this person and you want to be promoted, or you are, this person is somebody that you simply cannot cut and run from. What do you do with that? What are the strategies?
Once you learn about these personalities, they are two-dimensional. They are missing a dimension that makes them human. It's a glue. And so with enough education about how they operate, we can play their game. But it's very, very difficult. And if you have a heart that beats in your chest, you don't operate this way. In fact, what I've found over the years, every time I tried to deal with one of these personalities, it induces narcissism in you. They do not respond to what another feeling human being responds to. So you have to learn to play hardball with them, which doesn't necessarily mean confronting them. It means not gratifying them, not being available as food for them.
Right. I like the supply source framework, because they're feasting off of that, right? Like, go get more, get more, get more, right? And so you have to extricate yourself from that channel.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
One of the things that we talked about is that there are some new findings that you are bringing to light in next month, around the corner, right? Very, very shortly. Share with us why this is groundbreaking and what it is that we need to know as it relates to personal, professional, with respect to narcissism.
Great question. The thing that we need to know as potential victims, there has been a specific population that we have honed in that are specifically susceptible to these types of personalities. On the trait elevation tests and the TCI report, we have found that people with a high level of agreeableness and conscientiousness will be subject to being victimized by these people, because highly agreeable and highly conscientious people do not want to fail. They will keep going. They will pour more resources in. But what they don't understand, because they are used to being able to figure it all out, is that narcissists, cluster B personality disorders, have 4 core neurological impairments that prevent them from being like us. They have an impairment in their ability to empathize, which then in turn affects their ability to have intimacy. They have an inability to have self-identity, and therefore also have an inability for self-direction. All of these things make them very different creatures, if you will. And we think we can love it out of them. And we cannot.
Or people please it out of them, right?
Yeah, that's right. And agreeable and conscientious people gauge their success on being able to impact and affect others. But when you understand that you cannot, we want you to put the sword down. We want you to stop trying. We want you to protect yourself and not internalize the damage that can be done to you, which is pervasive.
I want to pause for a minute, because we've got a lot of just great people here, many people that I am just so blessed to have as supporters. Andy York, thank you so much. Hello all. I never heard that much about narcissism until a couple of years ago. So I don't know. I feel like it's something that you learn in your later life. It's not necessarily, you talk about, the education. I really appreciate that, Andy. And I got a hashtag from Alana, hashtag truth. Paul, yep, they are parasites, and a lot of echoing around, yep, I've been there. Patrick, I've been there. I've been there. I've been there. And of course, the amazing Niraj, yep, had a few narcissistic bosses. So, despite the fact that we're not alone, part of this is also to bring it to light so that you have some tips and tricks and strategies. And, these pieces that you talked about, right? These 4 elements that make them different from other people that just might, be having a bad day and take it out on others, is much more profound. And so what I also want to get to, because I think that this is really important, is aside from moving yourself back and getting out of the way, right? Getting out of the way, like, what else and what other mistakes do people commonly make? I mean, this people pleasing, I know I am like classic, right? And what the messaging is it's good to be a high achiever. People want to sign up to be high achievers. People want to drive a level of accomplishment. But then you are a victim or at risk of falling into that trap of, oh my God, here I am doing what I think is the right thing to do by constantly achieving. But if I am achieving with the wrong audience, I could really get myself into a no-win situation.
That's right. These people can take down and love to the most successful. They, if you've ever dated a narcissist, you find that they have much better taste in partners than we do, which is kind of funny. They look for a supply source in you. They will try to manipulate you through coercive control, pathological lying, gaslighting. All of these things are employed to get you to second guess yourself. If we don't allow them to get the hook in, they can't allow that to happen. So when we suspect that there may be somebody that is self-centered, someone that's bullying, that may be what you see and all you see at first. And you also may be used to it. You may come from a family like this. Some people are sideswiped midlife by these people, but other people are even desensitized to them because they've grown up in families. Generationally, our generation, I mean, I laugh sometimes when I'm not crying. We didn't even know when we were being sexually harassed. If a construction, we didn't get a whistle walking by a construction site, we were offended, we were insulted. So a lot of our antenna, age appropriately, are not up. What the narcissist wants to do is get you to second guess yourself. That is their main tool, to create what they call cognitive dissonance in you, so that you are second guessing all your strengths. They will do this by fast pacing intimacy. They will fake intimacy by replacing it with intensity. You think you're falling in love. You think you're connecting. You think you've made your best friend. They are speeding you along. When you find somebody is moving too fast, you trust it. Most narcissists will present as a victim. They will provide you with the poor me story, so you are feeling sorry for them right at the get-go. A healthy person doesn't really want to reveal that stuff on a first meeting or a first date. A narcissist typically will give you a story to get a hook in to these agreeable and conscientious people?
I'm gonna share a snippet of this because I think that this is how it has looked, at least for me, in some of my work life, where you're witnessing maybe a superior, a boss, a manager who's throwing other people under the bus. And in that effort, they're trying to align with you, right? And we know gossiping and all that kind of stuff, but I have been in that place thinking in the back of my mind, ooh, they must really trust me that they are sharing this dirt with this about my peer or another employer or client behind the scenes.
Right.
But it could be, I can't speak for every situation, of course, but that could be a telltale sign, not only that they are going to throw you under the bus, but that they are falsifying a sign that appears like trust on the outside,
Right.
but could be a way of finding out if they can use you as a supply source.
Absolutely. You know, a narcissist, one of their main defenses is what we call divide and conquer. They split people and want to turn them against one another. And they communicate by proxy is another one of their main tools. So what you're describing is a form of terrorism. You are being forced to witness an abuse. You are thinking, oh, wow, I'm glad I'm not being abused. But, you know, a child that's watching their older sibling be abused is getting the clear message that if you step this way, it's a minefield. This is what's going to happen to you. And
Right.
Narcissists will do this a million different ways. You know, in the corporate world, you know, your boss might say, you know, I met somebody that actually knows how to do that a lot. Maybe we'll bring them in so they can train you. Maybe you can, and all of a sudden you feel threatened. If you're dating a narcissist, they will tell you, but they're giving you this information, what the last ex did that was so terrible. She wouldn't let me do this. What a bitch. You know, you wouldn't do that. They don't say that, but they are delivering messages by proxy.
And I hear in these examples, I hear tremendous undermining, you know, this kind of like cutting down, whether it's you or them directly, but this kind of the question mark that will trigger, oh my goodness, you know, maybe if I did it this way, or I need to avoid that, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, to your earlier point about second guessing. So these,
Right.
you know, if anybody, of course, has any questions, please. I know that I requested it earlier, but this is like obviously not a one and done kind of conversation for, I mean, certainly for me and Claudia, but also as you continue personally, professionally, to understand you're not going to be able to make this right if you are dealing with somebody who is in the true definition of a narcissist.
Right.
And as you are looking at opportunities, as you are assessing workplace culture, as you are, you know, really getting underneath the hood of opportunities, I encourage you to ask some very pointed questions. And can you share with us one or two important questions, whether they come out loud or whether you're asking yourself?
You know, when a workplace is ruled by a narcissist, usually the employees have the language for it. You may not get it from higher up. They may be on their best behavior, but if there's any way of connecting with other people that work there, That's really where you're going to get the information. And it may not be, oh, he's a narcissist, but it may
Right. You're not going to come out and say, especially
Right.
if you're interviewing, oh, by the way, is this person that I would be reporting to a narcissist?
Right.
So what would be a little bit more of a maybe, benign or safe way of suggesting those kinds of questions?
If you want the job, I don't know that you can really ask if you're asking a non-narcissistic boss how they handle this kind of bullying or harassment in their office. That might be a more benign way. If there's bullying in the office, how do you deal with it? But a narcissist is never going to cop to that diagnosis. We are on the cusp now of educating, of people allowing the education of psychopathology to even start permeating their brains. What we have to understand is psychopathology, and this may sound extreme, but what happened yesterday, I don't feel like sugarcoating anymore. Pathology is the root of all evil. On a global level, on an institutional level, and on an interpersonal level. It is a holocaust that is created in the same way that the more we know about it, the more the workplace is educated, it will be perceived as harassment. There are laws against it now. They're watching for it now. So the education will go a long way. It may even subdue some of them. There has to be a conversation, but people don't want to talk about evil. Pathology like this has been going on since the beginning of time, and we have stuck our heads in the sand, and we see what's happening. Our children are being killed. Guns are valued more than human life. It's so we have to be talking about it. We have to share the information. It has to be implemented in the work in place, in human resources, and there's a saying in psychological circles: the disorder always wins. If we know what we're looking for, it will always come to the surface. We will always see it if we know what we're looking for, but nobody knows what they're looking for.
So as follow-up, help us, let's just say I'm watching this and, like, it sounds like for somebody like Andy, the whole narcissism thing seems so complicated. It's hard to even get a grip on the concept of this. So then I ask, like, okay, so for somebody like Andy, or for the Andys out there in the world, right?
Yeah.
Where should we go to be even more educated on this? What should we read? What should we watch? What should we do? And great question, Rena. Thanks for coming. How can you deflect a narcissism? I think that we talked a little bit about this maybe earlier in the show, but help us understand the resources that we should really align ourselves with to get the right and real information.
Okay. So Sandra Brown, one of my mentors, who has done seminal work in this area. This is very abstract, covert information, and it is not easy to digest. Sandra, myself, and a few other clinicians across the country started an association. The association, you've listed it there. The Association for NPD Psychopathy Education, Treatment, and Research. We have developed a protocol and a curriculum for training clinicians on how to treat this, not the disorder, but victims of narcissistic abuse. There has never been a protocol. And so very well-meaning clinicians have ended up re-traumatizing their patients because this is not domestic violence.
Right.
This is different than domestic violence. Narcissistic abuse addresses the impact, the covert impact that it has on the victim. The DSM is toying with a new alternative diagnostic criteria, not just the criteria for personality disorders that it has listed. The DSM diagnosis speaks about the behavior of the pathological person versus the alternative view, which addresses the impact on the victim.
Okay, so is this what is the
So the
URL?
association is survivortreatment.com. Also coming up June 1st is World Narcissistic Abuse Day, and one of my colleagues, Bree Bronke, developed this. And on June 1st and June 2nd, we have 20 different specialists in this area speaking about all different things. I'm speaking about how a healthy parent can protect a child from the impact of a narcissistic parent after divorce. Every different derivation of this is free. And you can join any one of these discussions on June 1st and June 2nd and get a ton more links and references. There are tons of stuff listed on the association website. Donna
the Association for NPD.
Psychopathy, Education, Research, and Training, where we're trying to figure out a more concise name. But there's also one of my favorite websites run by Donna Anderson is called lovefraud.com.
Ooh, that's a good name.
Information. She talks a lot about what we should do when we've been fired from a job, involved in divorce and legal proceedings, because, when we talk about institutional narcissism, we can be re-traumatized by the justice system. We can, children and partners, victims are being re-traumatized also when they go for help.
So thank you, Alexandria. It says, I've been impacted for sure. And there's so many out there with NPD, such an important conversation. Thank you. Understanding what the signs are is so important, both personally and professionally. Thanks for talking about this. You know what I want to say is thank you, Claudia, for dedicating your practice, your life to helping people like you and me, regular lay people out there in the world, in your professional life and in your personal life, understand, what, it might not be comfortable in either taxes, like put your big girl pants on or your big boy pants on and look at it rather than keep your head in the sand, as you had referenced, and put yourself in a situation, or worse, expose your children or other people to this kind of behavior and pretend that it's okay. So on the heels of the losses from yesterday and the craziness that continues to show up in our world, please be willing to have those conversations. Thought leaders speak out on things that aren't necessarily easy, and they certainly aren't comfortable. So Claudia Paradise, my person, and thank you for all that you've shared. Thank you for these resources. I will follow up and add those links in. It's free, June 1st and 2nd. You want to know more? Yeah, take it in small doses. Come and go. But don't pretend it's going to go away, because it's just not. It might be able to gain more exposure with all of your help so that you are well informed and can guard against it and save yourself, hopefully, a lot of heartache. Yeah. All right. So for today and for the rest of this week, everybody have a wonderful and safe Memorial Day weekend. Big love and thank you always, Claudia Paradise, for everything that you do. And thank you to the LinkedIn audience. Have a wonderful weekend and we'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.